unraveling the plot. The Vegas killer had an escape plan. Did he have other targets in mind? Also tonight, Republicans and the NRA now support regulating devices that turn rifles into machine guns.
We certainly welcome that, would like to be part of that conversation.
One of Hollywood's most powerful men is accused of sexually harassing female employees for decades. His lawyers say it's not true. Information overload. All that technology on the dashboard may be driving us to distraction. And
show me a golden smile.
Yeah.
Out of the darkness of tragedy, they provide light.
This is awesome.
This is the CBS Evening News.
Good evening, I'm Anthony Mason. The how is becoming clearer, but the why remains elusive. Police say Stephen Paddock's assault on a Las Vegas concert Sunday night was no suicide mission. He'd hoped to get away, and it appears he had his eye on venues in other cities. Paddock killed 58 and injured nearly 500. More than 150 people remain in hospitals tonight. John Blackstone begins our coverage from Las Vegas.
Investigators are no closer to understanding what may have inspired 64-year-old Stephen Paddock to create such carnage. His preparations were so elaborate, including placing cameras outside his room, that investigators believe Paddock may have had an accomplice. Clark County Sheriff Joseph Lombardo.
Stephen Paddock is a man who spent decades acquiring weapons and ammo and living a secret life, much of which will never be fully understood.
Everybody go!
This new video obtained by the Review-Journal shows the harrowing moments as the attack unfolded.
He's been shot. Do we have medical set up somewhere yet?
Police have now pinpointed a more exact timeline. At 10:05 p.m., Paddock fired the first shots from the Mandalay Bay. 10 minutes later, the shooting stopped. At 10:18, Paddock fired more than 200 rounds through the door of his room, wounding a security guard in the leg.
We can't go yet.
After that, Paddock fired no more bullets into the music festival. He may have had more in mind.
You suggested that after he saw the security guard that his concern became himself. Did you see any evidence that he planned to survive this or try to escape?
Yes.
What's that?
I can't tell you.
At 11:20, police used an explosive to break through Paddock's front door. From his room on the 32nd floor, Paddock not only sprayed bullets into the music festival, some of his shots also hit these aviation fuel tanks on the edge of the airport. Investigators are trying to determine whether those were stray bullets or he intended to hit the tanks.
This guy is absolutely the boogeyman.
Randy Sutton, retired from the Las Vegas Police Department, is a consultant for CBS News.
This guy used tremendous tactics. This showed training. Where did he get that training? Who helped him train him to use those weapons as he did?
Investigators are hoping that some answers will come from Paddock's girlfriend, Mary Lou Danley. CBS News has learned that she has discussed Paddock's mental health with FBI investigators. Anthony?
John Blackstone in Las Vegas. Thanks, John. Justice and Homeland Security correspondent Jeff Pegues reports Paddock had checked out bigger music festivals in Las Vegas and other cities.
More than a month before the attack in Las Vegas,
Everybody go!
Stephen Paddock booked a room at the Blackstone Hotel in Chicago. It overlooked the Lollapalooza Music Festival in August, but Paddock never checked in. He also booked rooms overlooking a different festival in Las Vegas and researched locations in Boston around Fenway Park. Some of the information is coming from searches of Paddock's online activity and electronic devices. Police are also looking for people who came in contact with Paddock before the shooting, including a woman reportedly seen with him at the Mandalay Bay Casino. Investigators are focusing on why, starting in October of 2016, Paddock accumulated 33 weapons from gun stores in Nevada, California, Texas, and Utah, and why his car contained ammunition, fertilizer, and tannerite. A powerful explosive, as this YouTube demonstration shows. Why the fixation with crowds of tens of thousands of people? Why the fixation? Ron Hosko is a former assistant director of the FBI.
You know, as we look at active shooters over time, from time to time you do get a sense of competition.
Cities are now rethinking security for large outdoor events. In Chicago, Mayor Rahm Emanuel is preparing for next week's marathon, which is expecting 40,000 competitors.
We constantly are revising and asking fundamental questions about what goes on. I'm glad that also the FBI is here because, in fact, we work with a lot of our federal partners in that preparation for this marathon.
Experts say it is apparent Stephen Paddock wanted credit for the attack. He checked into the hotel under his own name, called security to complain about loud music, and was constantly in that casino where he had to know that dozens of cameras would record his movements. Anthony.
Jeff Pegues, thanks. The carnage in Las Vegas has led to a highly unusual development on Capitol Hill. Republicans signaled they're open to regulating the kind of equipment that enabled the shooter to gun down hundreds. Here's Nancy Cordes.
I didn't even know what these things were like come Monday.
In a sea change for Republicans, lawmakers from the House Speaker on down today said they're open to banning bump stocks.
It's certainly something that should be looked at.
I'd be willing to entertain those.
The affordable devices essentially turn legal semi-automatic rifles
We're going to try a 30-round ammo dump
into machine guns capable of firing hundreds of rounds a minute.
Extremely simple, very easy to control the burst.
Fully automatic weapons have been outlawed for many, many years. This seems to be a way of going around that.
Back in 2010, the Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms ruled that bump stocks are a firearm part and therefore not regulated as a firearm under the Gun Control Act or National Firearms Act.
Now that it's well known, I'm concerned that now you're going to have a massive proliferation, especially with copycat type people.
Adam Kinzinger of Illinois and two other Republicans sent a letter to the ATF today urging it to reevaluate these devices and vowing to explore legislative options as well.
How many Republicans have said to you, I support what you're trying to do?
A lot.
Enough to pass a bill?
Yeah, I think there's enough to pass a bill.
But the president's former chief strategist, Steve Bannon, warned of grassroots fallout, telling the news outlet Axios that Mr. Trump going left on gun control is impossible, will be the end of everything. And some Republicans worry that any new restrictions will set a bad precedent.
It's about undermining the Second Amendment.
Democrat Nancy Pelosi doesn't think that argument will win out in the wake of the Vegas carnage.
So what? They're going to say if you give them bump stock, it's going to be a slippery slope? I certainly hope so.
Even the National Rifle Association saw the writing on the wall today. Its leaders breaking their silence on this issue to say that they, too, believe bump stocks should be regulated. Anthony?
Nancy Cordes at the Capitol. This programming note, the head of the NRA, Wayne LaPierre, will be among John Dickerson's guests this Sunday on Face the Nation. 3 U.S. Army Green Berets were killed in an ambush in the West African nation of Niger. 2 others were wounded. The soldiers' names have not been released. They were attacked yesterday near the border with Mali, where Boko Haram and al-Qaeda-linked militants operate. American troops are there providing counterterrorism training. Tonight, BP is shutting oil and natural gas production at its Gulf of Mexico platforms ahead of Tropical Storm Nate, which formed today in Central America. Nate is now forecast to hit Louisiana or Mississippi Sunday morning, possibly as a Category 1 hurricane. A state of emergency has been declared in New Orleans. Our David Begnaud is just back from more than 2 weeks in Puerto Rico. He was there before Hurricane Maria hit. His reporting after the storm prompted action. Welcome back, David.
It's good to be here.
San Juan's mayor, David, Carmen Yulín Cruz, was one of the fiercest critics of the aid being slow to arrive in Puerto Rico. Now, you talked with her almost 2 weeks ago. Let's listen first.
Think of your worst nightmare, and there it is. No power anywhere in Puerto Rico. No water. We have the reservoirs of drinking water have been depleted. Diesel is very quickly running out.
So bring us up to date. Do people have power yet?
Most don't. 91% of the island is without power. In fact, Anthony, last night in Umacao, one of the hospitals, the power grid went down. So they had to evacuate patients to the floating hospital, the U.S. naval ship Comfort. Today, I was told they're now assessing all the hospitals to make sure the power grids are up to date, and they're pre-planning for possible evacuation of other hospitals if need be.
What about the interior of the country?
It's worse, much worse. In fact, that's where you've got people who are drinking water and bathing with stream water, okay? And the governor's office is telling us they've identified isolated areas with special needs. And so what they're doing is they're actually sending fuel trucks into each of those cities and positioning a fuel truck there. But so many people have asked, what's taken 15 days to do that?
Well, how much longer, David, do you think, before there's real relief?
The governor has said some people could be without power for up to a year. And still tonight, you have people saying we need more food and more water.
David Begnaud, thanks for being with us. Pennsylvania Republican Tim Murphy announced his resignation from the House today. It comes after a report this week said Murphy, who is anti-abortion, tried to encourage his mistress to have the procedure. Turned out she was not pregnant. Their affair was revealed in her divorce proceedings. The married congressman initially said yesterday he would not seek re-election, but today he stepped down, effective October 21st. 2 weeks after a powerful earthquake shook Mexico, the search for survivors has ended. The official death toll, 369. More than half were killed in Mexico City. Prosecutors are looking into possible building code violations. Their officials say there could be homicide, negligence, and fraud charges. Coming up next on the CBS Evening News, a safety warning. All those dashboard gizmos are keeping eyes off the road. And later, the healing power of puppy love.